All right, so ETBC 7 08 Grand Cherokee. Joe's been working on it a little while here. He's got the 7-way on the back. I'll let you take it away, Joe.
All right, I've got 7-pole connected right here. Goes on the back, of course, you know that. The only modification I had to make is a special bracket to go up to behind the bumper here. There's no structure here. So I took a long bracket and bent it up in the bench vise and then bolted up to the bumper structure underneath.
And that's different than what normally comes with it because it's normally just the shorter.
Yeah, how
That's
easy
different.
it is to
Yeah.
see here, and if I'm doing a very good job with this. But this bracket right here is normally just straight
Yeah.
and hooks over the hitch. But the hitch is only in the middle of the car on this one. Doesn't have a cross tube that comes out here. So that's what he modified this bracket that we sell, the
long
181.
bracket. Yeah, we saw it. And I was putting a bench vise and I just bent it at a 90-degree angle.
And did the customer buy that bracket?
Not yet.
So the person who sold him the ETBC 7 didn't sell him a bracket for the 7-way, which is typical.
Yeah, because a lot of times the customer service or customers not going to know if they need that or not, long or short ones. So we always got to add them on there.
Yeah.
So aside from the bracket, are most of these installs on different vehicles, are they pretty much the same, or are they more or less complicated on different vehicles? Or
the thing that makes them more complicated is usually where you mount the brake controller and where you mount the brackets on the back if the vehicle's not normal.
That's trying to find circuit breakers too.
Yeah.
Place for circuit breakers underneath the hood.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. It's the kit. Basically, the kit gives you everything that you need to put it in place. All the basics, but you still have to do some custom fabrication. You can't get away from that.
So yeah, I think with the ETBC 7, it's kind of like a braking system on a car, like the Invisibrake or the Air Force One or the Stay Play. You have to plan it out, and once you have your plan, then everything's just putting wires, running wires, and putting things together. But getting the plan and making a good plan for what you're doing is the thing that takes experience. Right. And that's why people need our videos.
And then the kit's also kind of evolved from the first time I designed it for TJ. It's basically what it was. I designed an original replacement for Orium harness back in the 90s. And I measured it all out, and that's what we had today, the length of the wire and everything. Fits a Ford F-150 from the 90s perfect. That was before we had extra long bodies on them now. And cabs and the short beds, so that's why you have extra length added to it. And then, of course, the 7-poles changed a little bit. But other than that, back then, there was a spot you can even take a bracket and bolt to the bumper on the boards. There really was no modification. You could all bolt it on back in the day, aside from crimp a few wires, and that was it. Nowadays, we have to run holes through the firewall and tap into the brake switch. It's like any of them you have to do back at a certain point. Some are a lot easier than hard. It's not a one part goes that fits exactly every vehicle. So it gives you all the circuits that you need to do the job, but you still have to figure out the interface somehow.
Seems most people who are buying this are wanting to install brake controller. Would you say that this kit, basically any brake controller you buy and you don't have a 7-way already, that you're going to need this kit? Or from your experience, are there certain brake controllers that don't necessarily need this or connect a different way?
Every brake controller needs the same basic circuits: power and ground, output to the trailer, and a trigger circuit from the brake switch. Every brake controller pretty much works that way in some fashion or another. So you will need this for any brake controller or vehicle that doesn't have a 7-pole in the back.
Yeah. So I know we call it a universal, and I was just wondering if there was anything that didn't necessarily fall into that.
Just the Kurt one.
Yeah. It's the Kurt one. Yeah.
That one, what's that thing called?
The Echo.
Echo. Yeah. The Kurt Echo.
Yeah, so the Echo is just kind of like a wireless one, right?
You just plug it straight into the 7-way, and it's the little module, right?
Yeah, it just plugs in here, and then a little cylinder comes out, and the trailer plugs in the other end of the cylinder. And then all you need from here is power and ground, and it still gets the brake signal trigger from these contacts in here, instead of digging up underneath the dashboard brake switch.
So are there any other applications aside from brake controllers that you can think of that this kit could be used for, or is it really just, you want to install a brake controller and you have a 4-way and not a 7-way, and this is what you need, or is there any other applications this could be useful for as it is?
Not really. We've put them on before for vehicles or people who just want the power lead out back. It's convenient on the whole kit. If they have like a 7-pole and they have a cargo or a wheelchair carrier, I guess, it goes up and down, and then they'll plug into that. They just need power right here. That kit works good. So you got a lot of extra parts, and I think we got an extra kit for that. So that's the same thing we do to Echo brake controller.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that
And
kit
so-
uses a bunch of other things too, more than this one for less cost.
So you start the install with the 7-way at the back, but you do end up in the engine compartment with tapping into the 12-volt, right?
Yeah, let me lower it a little bit.
Yeah.
You just gotta find a place for your circuit breakers. So you got 2 of them here. You got one for your brake controller, which uses 20 amps. Uses 30 amp mainly on trailers that have like 3 axles on them. I doubt this little Jeep's gonna be pulling a 3-axle trailer, so they use 20 amp circuit breaker. And that's all dependent on the brake controller you use too. Some have different specifications, but it's usually 20 or 30. And then the power supply, the 12-volt power going out back always goes to this 40 amp circuit breaker, and then down and out. So you have to connect here. You obviously have these here. These go to power, right, pick up off the battery. And then you have 2 wires, one going out back, and one going back inside. Well, actually, 2 going back inside for power and ground for the brake controller itself.
Yeah, and those circuit breakers are there to protect that circuit. It's not a 40 amp circuit breaker doesn't mean that we're plan on them running 40 amps on that circuit. The wire is too long for 40 amps to really be effective. It's just protecting that circuit from that short to ground. So as soon as you short to ground, you'll get more than 40 amps and it'll kick itself out.
Yeah.
So it's not like the wire has to match the size of the breaker. We've been getting that question a lot lately. And same way with the brake controller, you're protecting the circuit. You're not, the brake controller will never pull 20 amps on that circuit with a single or dual axle trailer, only 4 magnets, unless there's a problem. And then if there's a problem, that circuit breaker will protect and keep the wire from melting or starting a fire or whatever. So that's there, and then inside the car, I guess. Move.
Yeah. And then you want to find a place for your brake controller. The most common place is down on this side. It goes down right here. On this plane right here, where you're right-handed, pretty much it's natural to grab, unless you're lefty. But it has room for your knee in here. Bad part about this is that it's hard to see the numbers depending on how tall you are going through the steering wheel here. That sometimes gets in the way.
Yeah, it would seem kind of hard to see.
So, but that's just the way cars are built. There's no way around it.
Right.
And you can put it on this side.
Sorry.
But then you run the risk of getting out and hitting your knee on it, blah, blah, blah. In this case, just because the brake controller is a natural fit, I'm going to put it in his pocket because this guy doesn't seem to be using any of his pockets in this vehicle, especially this one. So I'm just going to use some double-sided tape or hook and loop stuff. Just pop it in there, and that'll be nice and fine. It looks like a nice fit, too.
Yep.
More or less custom install.
Yeah, this is where I got really lucky.
Yeah.
It was like 1 in 100 that I could do this on. Otherwise, you have this bracket you got to bolt on, which is cool. I actually like this one. It grabs it really nice. but every bracket's still going to lower out a little bit further. And all cars don't really have a flat surface anymore. A lot of these brake controllers can only sit at a straight angle like this and not like this to a certain degree. They can sit like this all day long, but if they are crooked, they don't seem to work as well. And you have to have a flat surface to do that with. In modern day cars, you really don't have that. So that's why the Echoes and the Red Arc one might be a better match for a lot of vehicles. These were all designed with trucks back in the day. This is all stuff from the 80s, still just shrunk, miniaturized, really. And then you still have to tap into the brake signal underneath the vehicle. Older vehicles like this is not a problem. On some newer vehicles, you have to get the brake signal from somewhere else because it's not a brake switch anymore. It's a position sensor. So it's it's not a complete on or off. It's hooked up to the silly computer on there. So you have to find a circuit that basically turns on the stoplights out back. That gives you a constant signal off or on.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll talk to you guys soon.